I'm going to introduce Julie, which is amazing. She is the one that worked with our city council person, Margaret McGosson, to develop this project. It's won an award as it's actually the best permanent supportive housing model in all of Southern California. And they have many other developments that she'll be talking about and really giving us an idea of the steps to developing affordable housing and permanent supportive housing. She has more than 25 years of accounting and finance experience in public and private sector. Immediately prior to joining the National Core team, she gained extensive housing finance skills with the county manager of Los Angeles County Community Development Commission, where she held that position for more than a decade. She joined National Core in 2000 to oversee and monitor developments from the initial financial structuring phase all the way to the lease-up phase. So Julie Mugnai holds an MBA degree with an emphasis in finance from the University of Oregon. And so I want to give you a welcome to Julie. So, yeah.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you. What a beautiful presentation. It's been just so inspiring. So thank you for giving me the privilege to address you today, and thank you for your wonderful work that you do. Can you all hear me? So one of the handouts that you're going to be getting is actually a property profile of Morris Place, so you can give you a little bit more detail about the development. So we're National Community Renaissance. We're often called National Core. I want to tell you a little bit about us. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it, okay? I want to get more to the meat of what really Jill asked me to talk about, which is how you do affordable housing development, how you do permanent supportive housing development, okay? But just to tell you a little bit about us, this is us. We're one of the larger nonprofit developers, mission-oriented, full service. We have everything in-house. We're even our own general contractor. We do all property management. So there's the opportunity to have sort of a seamless quality control in almost every facet of the development process that we engage in. Some of the kind of developments that we've done run the gamut of just about everything out there. We have about 10,000 units, so we've done quite a bit. We, along with the development nonprofit, which is National Core, our founders also wanted to make sure that you're not just building buildings, right? It's not just brick and mortar. So we provide social services at all our housing sites, and we've created a separate nonprofit called Hope Through Housing Foundation that focuses, depending on the kind of development, we'll implement different kinds of services. So whether it's family or senior wellness. Now, I wanted to do this because one of the biggest hurdles we have as affordable housing developers is convincing communities that we go in what affordable housing is. And oftentimes, the NIMBYism that we experience when we go is the thought that a lot of people have this notion or this concept that what affordable housing looks like is the 1940s, 1930s public housing projects, crime-ridden, just a beacon for attracting all the elements that they don't want in their community. But it's important to know that that's not what affordable housing looks like. And it's not just ours, it's across the board with the nonprofit and for-profit developer community in terms of what's out there. A lot of these buildings are buildings that actually look better than market rate developments within communities, and you can't tell them apart. So that's the first one, that's Morris Place, and I think you have, that's in Pasadena. And I'll talk a little bit more, but actually, this is one that we're really proud of. Great community, 20 units, permanent supportive housing. We partner with Union Station Homeless Services who provide all the case management, and they're on site 8 hours a day to provide services to the residents who live there, along with our property service manager and a maintenance person. So, you know, we take care of everything that the residents need upon initial intake of determining what needs each individual has. Now, this particular development is 10 one-bedrooms and 10 two-bedrooms. But it's specifically geared for families with children. So one of the funders is First Five, which caters to providing funding for families that have children under the age of 5. The city of Pasadena was just instrumental in making this happen. You saw the council member on that video right before then. It would not have happened without her. It would not have happened without her going out there in the community and speaking in each and every community meeting that we conducted, and she was there. Very unusual, but it was wonderful and it made it work. This is another senior development in City of Bell Gardens. This one actually has the city incorporated a senior center on the ground floor. This is another wonderful senior community, 144 units in Santa Fe Springs. And again, in this one, the city actually used the community facilities that we had as an alternate senior center for the senior population in the city. This is a good example of a development on an infill parcel. So it's actually less than an acre parcel, and we got about 60 units there, with the city being really cooperative in terms of giving us the flexibility and the development standards to gain enough density to make it work. It has a rooftop community garden, and it's actually right next to the wonderful amenities is Porter's. You guys familiar with that? So it's actually like 2 blocks from Porter's, which is really cool. This one is a good example of a transit-oriented development. It's right on the Gold Line in East Los Angeles, which it also has along the ground floor live-work units. So, you know, so they're passive type of businesses that don't necessarily require a lot of foot traffic to succeed. So it's worked out really well. We have 11 live-work units there on the ground. These next 3, the San Antonio Vista and the City of Montclair, San Emi, and San Marino, these are all right next, adjacent to each other. So the City of Montclair had approached us because they had all these sort of irregular lots and infill lots. Some of them were landlocked, and there was a lot of crime and blight in that area. And they asked us to help them sort of develop a plan for the neighborhood in terms of what you could do with it. So we actually ended up having 4 developments there, about 350 units, all adjacent next to each other. Took down a commercial blighted area, and also built another permanent supportive housing. It's a special needs housing because it caters to developmentally disabled individuals. So there's also another one there. This one is in Rancho Cucamonga. This is an example of where you do mixed income. So this particular development is actually 20% market and 80% affordable. You know, these are some of the typical amenities that we want to include on there to provide for the security of the residents, because security and safety is key. And we also provide community space in all the places, including a computer center that either the adults or the youth can come and either do their homework or do research or do job searches and stuff like that. And then, you know, other amenities that make the development livable for the residents. You heard Bill Wong from the city really talk about the importance. I wanted to put this because property management is key. On-site management is key. You can build a building, but if you don't control how it's operated and really take care of that, then it does not serve as a positive asset to the community. And we found that over and over and over again when we go, when cities ask us to come in and, for example, help them convert apartment complexes that are causing a lot of public safety calls in the community. There was one that we did in Rialto that was getting about 800 police calls a year. And what we found out was when we started enforcing really strict property management rules and really screening the tenants and so forth, it makes all the difference in the world. So that's the other critical component of development. It's not just building, you've got to manage it.
You talk about screening, what kind of things are you screening for?
So some of the screening is based on the type of funding that we're using, for example. So they're income restricted. So you have to screen for what's your income levels, right? We also screen for credit checks, criminal background, and also make sure that they have not filed for bankruptcy within a certain period of time. So you'll do all those checks. And the other thing we screen for is also the household sizes and so forth, so that it fits within the regulations of the funding sources that we're using. And one of the important things too is that we have that crime-free addendum, so that once you do get in, if you do get convicted of any particular crime, or if it occurs in your premises and you're allowing it to happen, then we have the right to evict you for the safety of the other residents. What's the development process? In general, and I don't know how familiar you guys are with the development process, but basically, the acquisition part of it involves, mostly working with brokers, looking for vacant land, looking for opportunities where you can actually develop affordable housing. So this is where the cities come in terms of working with the city to identify what their needs are, and I might be able to help you with site selection or site assemblage. They may have, I think you heard the individual from the city who was talking before, talked about the fact that, for example, the city of Monrovia is a fairly built-out city. And you almost have to identify sort of infill parcels in different places, where you can assemble underutilized properties and so forth, that you can assemble in to do that. Then, we come in and we do the due diligence in terms of environmental, in terms of financial. There's a pencil, what can you use in terms of subsidy of financing sources. The community outreach is critical, and I think you heard the city director of community development talk about that there, especially for permanent supportive housing. You have to get out there way ahead and inform the community, make sure they're educated about what that process is and what it really means to have affordable housing in the community. It was, the great thing about that video, you also see the police and public safety and brokers of land talk about the fact there's a misnomer out there that affordable housing brings with it crime. Affordable housing results in a decrease in the property values around it. These are all issues that we have to deal with when we go out in the community, and the NIMBYism that comes with, those are probably the most popular arguments out there, right? You're bringing all these people, they're going to bring crime, they're going to bring drugs, they're going to, you know, just damage or bring negative influences into the community. So this is really important. But the other part of it is we have to have the support of the elected officials and to have the courage and the vision and the leadership to really push that agenda. Because if they don't, it's not going to happen, okay? There's a lot of talk these days, you know, when you look at with HHH, where a lot of districts supported, and that measure, I believe, passed with over 65 or 70% approval rating, right? But what you find is when you actually get to that piece of land to develop in a certain neighborhood, the opposition is still there, okay? From all the way up. So the money is there, but the will there's a lot of education still. And then the rest of it is, you know, obviously you go through all the entitlements through the city, you garner the financing, there's a lot of financing sources that you can go after, then get into the design, development, and construction and lease up. That's really the cycle there. In terms of funding that's out there, there's some typical sources that most developers will access. The low-income tax credit is a big one. That's typically probably funds about 60% of the development. And for cities like Monrovia, which are not entitlement cities, they have access to the County of Los Angeles Affordable Housing Trust Fund, which is a mixture of all those. So I think somebody asked in the audience before, asked about how to access Measure H funding. That's the LA County basically puts out a notice of funding opportunity twice a year, and you can submit projects, okay? That's one of the uses of Measure H. The rest, the state has quite a few funding sources that are really specialized in the veterans, homeless veterans, as well as the chronically mentally ill, that No Place Like Home is coming down the line in about a year. It's about $2.2 billion of funding. And I think LA County is probably gonna get about $680 million, which is all for permanent supportive housing of chronically ill, homeless folks. And then, you know, there's all those, we've talked quite a bit about inclusionary housing and vouchers. I think you saw a video on that. Ways that cities can help is really to help with assembling land. Density bonus are critical because you've got to have enough mass to make it pencil, to make it be feasible. And other ways that cities have helped is, you know, fee waivers and really fast tracking entitlements, having a one-stop place that you can go to get everything developed. The last one there is also one, the coordinated entry system for permanent supportive housing, which I don't think the city has, right? I'm not, you do?
They don't have their own, they work with the county.
You work with the county, but you have the ability to create your own. I think one of the focus of targets for Measure H funding is actually the creation of a coordinated entry system. It allows you for a little better control within your own community. Here, I talked about sites a little bit, okay? So it is difficult to find land in built-out cities, right? But some of the more creative ways that folks are looking at these days of different cities is looking at excess surplus property that the city doesn't need. So there may be vacant buildings, there may be a school property that, you know, has been declared as excess. Parking lots are a big thing. And And also church property, we're actually currently working with about 4 different churches in different areas, and where they've come to us and said, we have all this excess property, would like to use it for affordable housing. So it's a great source, and then inclusionary housing. Yeah.
Churches that you work with, do they maintain ownership of the land and manage, or how's that?
They maintain ownership, and it's usually structured as a ground lease. That's what we've seen so far.
The ground?
Yeah. So the church will lease the property to the developer for a long period of time, because typically we want at least 55 plus years of a ground lease in order for the financing to work.
And maintain the ownership of it.
So you'll maintain the ownership of the land and you lease it. Yeah.
I'm just curious, I say in Monrovia, we've seen so much development going on around Gold Line, and as we keep stretching out to San Bernardino, there's going to be more and more. Is Core and is Mercy Housing, which is another development, are you guys at the forefront of approaching cities and saying, listen, this is what we have to offer, or are you dependent on the cities coming to you?
We do both. We do actually go out there and outreach to a lot of the cities. And it was more so during the era of redevelopment, because cities had resources that they could actually put into developments. Now what we've seen typically happening is that since cities have very scarce resources, they've mostly been putting out RFPs, or requests for proposals, for the few pieces of land that they have, okay? But we do approach, we do both.
So are you like along the Gold Line and stuff like that? It's like, that's walking distance, it's got everything, you know, there's new development going on. Are you missing out because the developers are actually building, is spending more money, or you have less to offer? I mean, to me, you offer great things, but are you being outbid? What's the problem with why it's not Core all the way down the line, or Mercy Housing all the way down the line?
So I don't know how it's working specifically in the city of Monrovia, but I after listening to the city representative this morning, I certainly intend to talk to him. And but what we have seen, especially with LA Metro, is they have developed the metro stations and have excess land around it. They have been putting it's almost like they're required to put it out for request for proposal, and you have to compete. And when you compete, you get a lot of big for-profit developers that often bid for those parcels, because they're really selling the land. And they may have, they have advantages, obviously, over nonprofits like ours that don't necessarily have the kind of resources that they have. So, and they're not necessarily asking that they be built as 100% affordable. So for example, LA Metro, their standards are 35% affordable. So you're going to get a lot of market rate developers that are going to come in and build that housing. So that's part of it.
There's time for just a couple more questions.
Just sort of piggybacking off of that, is that where city council buy-in becomes really important then when you do turn in RFPs for developments? So would city council buy-in be important in that process?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And you can't really do it otherwise, because any affordable or permanent supportive housing development you try to do out there's always opposition. There's always one that says, I don't want it next to me. I love the idea, but I just don't want it in my backyard, right? And it often takes really the courage of the elected officials to overcome that and really say, yes, we want to do it.
Couple more questions.
Do you approach, and is there an advantage to a company that a business or a company that may have a large facility that they don't need any longer, that could be transitioned into affordable housing? do you do that, and is there an advantage, is there a carrot for those businesses? And I'm thinking of 2 or 3 sites that I know here in Monrovia that I think would be potential.
Yeah, yeah. So again, any underutilized parcels or ones where you can change the use of it, right? To build affordable housing, it's perfect, it works.
But there are some, so the company, let's say a retail store, okay,
Yeah.
they could get a tax write-off or something for selling it to build? I mean, I'm trying to get incentives for them, for it to happen.
Well, if they're not utilizing the property, then, they're just holding on to it, right?
Yes.
So it might be a benefit to them to either sell it or regardless of, whatever use the buyer is going to use it for. I don't know about any tax incentives, obviously I don't. Maybe the city has that, but I don't know. No. Yeah.
Would people with undocumented status be able to stay in
I don't know, because, and I know you have to indicate what your citizenship status is on the application, okay? Because we're using federal funds a lot of times. Yeah, so I think it might be difficult.
So just 2 more questions and we need to get.
Have you worked with local churches to redevelop their property for affordable housing?
So we haven't completed one, but we're actually working with some right now. Yeah.
I'm working with her in Pasadena on a church property right now.
Okay. Then call me next, Joe.
Yeah, we have a couple that we're looking at in Orange County and in San Diego and Pasadena.
In Mark's place, there's a rock store, 90, what does that mean?
So that has to do with, the proximity of amenities around the site. So how far is a grocery store? So I can walk to it, right? How far is transit? How far is a library? How far is a pharmacy? Okay? How far is all the shopping amenities that I need to, to live, right? Where I don't have to drive a car. Yeah.
What's the scale?
100.
Not 100.
100. Thank you.